Hello and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Abby Fernandez.
I'm Jeffrey Witten.
And I'm Nicholas Garcia. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the possibility of a government shutdown come September.
Also, we have a report on former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and the factors that prevented her from becoming president.
Plus, we'll be bringing you the latest on some local and CSUF news. All this and more in today's episode of The Report.
Before we delve into our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of the discussion this semester season. Click on the link in the caption of any of our report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past, as many of these issues are recurring and evolving, ranging from gun control to abortion, climate change, or the state of politics right now. All we ask is to please keep it civil.
Congressional leaders have reached a deal on a $1 trillion spending bill that would fund the government at updated levels through the end of September, but deny President Donald Trump wins on his border wall plans and his crackdown on sanctuary cities. The bipartisan deal struck Sunday night would increase defense spending and provide $1.5 billion in new border security spending aimed at repairing existing infrastructure and increasing technology, though it would not allocate any new funding for a border wall with Mexico, despite the president's insistence. Under the plan, Congress would provide $15 billion in supplemental funding requested by Trump to fight terrorism, with $2.5 billion of that contingent on the White House presenting Congress with a plan to fight the Islamic State. However, President Trump tweeted Tuesday that the country needs a, quote, good shutdown, end quote, as well as advocated for changing Senate rules in a pair of tweets where he complained about the congressional negotiating process. The president tweeted, quote, the reason for the plan negotiated between the Republicans and Democrats is that we need 60 votes in the Senate, which are not there. We either elect more Republican senators in 2018 or change the rules now to 51%. Our country needs a good shutdown in September to fix mess, end quote. With a shutdown that has been averted for the time being, what does this mean for the country come September?
Well, so we know that the federal funding, or the funding to keep the federal government running, we're waiting for that on Friday, and, they've averted it like we mentioned and stuff. So when I was looking at that, I was looking at the partial sort of shutdown, right? What would be affected? We'd have Homeland Security still there because those are called the essentials, right? Mm-hmm. We'd have FBI stick around, obviously active military. But I did notice that 40% of, non-defense forces were going to go, basically. Mm-hmm. So, this is it's a lot to take in, really, if there is a shutdown, right? A lot of stuff wouldn't be available to the public, a lot of stuff that people need. So I can't even fathom to imagine what kind of controversy that would cause from what we already are in.
The thing that troubles me about these actions that the president has been taking lately is, with his latest tweets, he doesn't like compromise, and that's why he's saying it's good to have this government shutdown. And this whole border wall thing, it really makes him very dictator-like, and I kind of find that a little scary. Stuff can unravel really quickly, and
it is scary. I don't know exactly what a good shutdown means. What does that mean? We've been through shutdowns before, and it's never a good thing. I think that it can only hurt Republicans. I don't think it's going to get any more Republicans elected in 2018 because they have power. They have power, and they can't even decide on what they want to do. For once they finally have power after being, saying no for the last 8 years, and now they have control, and they can't decide what they want to do. So a shutdown being a good thing doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the fact that they can't compromise
within their own party
means they can't even do their job. That's what Congress is supposed to do, is compromise on specific issues. And if they can't take no for an answer, that means they're not doing their job.
Or not doing it fairly, I guess that would be it, right? Because you're right. I don't think that, he continues to do what he's doing, more Republicans will be in office. I don't think there's a reason for that to happen. We want this to be as fair as it can be to the people. Both sides are extremely aggravated by everything that's been going on, and all we can ask for is fairness, and definitely how he's been managing things, it's not. And he wants his own stuff to happen. He wants it at his own time, and that's just not the way stuff works. But, gosh, moving on to some other news, though. Hillary Clinton delivered her most forceful critique of President Donald Trump's 2016 victory on Tuesday, taking personal responsibility for her failed campaign, but also pointed to the timing of a letter from FBI Director James Comey and Russian interference as factors. At a women-to-women event in New York, she stated, quote, "If the election had been on October 27th, I would be your president. I take absolute personal responsibility. I was the candidate. I was a person who was on the ballot. I am very aware of the challenges, the problems, the shortfalls that we had." End quote. According to aides and friends, Clinton has grown more at peace with her loss in recent months, but is still forced on the interference by the Russian government, especially the fact that WikiLeaks began releasing John Podesta's hacked emails hours after the damaging Access Hollywood Trump tape was released. With this election being one of the messiest in the history of the United States, where specifically should the blame be placed? What do you think, Nick?
I mean, yes, I agree. Russian interference obviously played an unprecedented role in the election. Yes, I understand she needs to take personal responsibility for some of it. But am I the only one who feels like Bernie Sanders might play a little bit of the blame? I mean, he stayed in for a really long time in the primary. And the primary between Clinton and Obama in 2008, it was much closer than the primary between Sanders and Clinton this past time. So I think he stayed in it a little too long and maybe strained some of the potential support for her. And then he took too long to get on board. I don't want to place all the blame on Bernie, but he took a little too long to get on board with those people who were less inclined to vote for a woman and might have voted for her after all with his support.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we could speculate all day about why Hillary didn't win. I think she lost. Basically, she had essentially this election stolen from her because of a number of things. I think the biggest one or biggest couple are gerrymandering in key states where she was supposed to win, which I think have court cases where they have to redistrict now. Mm-hmm. And I think one of those states was a Democratic state, so the Democrats do it too. Both parties gerrymander. But I think gerrymandering really was one of the main reasons she lost, as well as she wasn't advocating enough. On all of her key issues, she wasn't an advocate. She was basically going off what Trump was attacking her on, and she didn't meet him. He was like verbally attacking her, and she didn't meet him. Mm-hmm. She was trying to be politically correct, and I think that's the wrong way to go about it, especially in light of your opponent being that forceful, that not PC. You need to match him. I think she was trying to be PC to sort of show that she was taking this job seriously, tried to keep that even keel, and I don't think it helped her at all.
A little bit different than what Jeff said here. I don't think, it really shocked me when I read that she said, had it been October 27th, she would have been president. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I do acknowledge, that a lot of these things did definitely significantly influence the fact that she didn't become president. But I don't think it sort of made it, cut the deal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So before this even happened, I remember talking to a bunch of people, because it was the rave, who are you voting for? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. All this stuff. And people were already against her. People didn't like the fact that she, like you said, she was very, trying to always be politically correct. And because of that, she was avoiding talking, or maybe not calling it avoiding, but she wasn't talking about what we thought she was going to be talking about.
She wasn't digging into the issues.
She wasn't. And, people were talking about that. People were upset at the fact that she sort of was bringing all these celebrities in and not really focusing on, what the campaign truly meant. People were just upset at her. And I remember hearing this all over, town and the people that I talked to. So I don't think it would have made a difference. Quite frankly, I don't think she would have still voted in. I do believe, now that you brought it up, that, Saunders could have, influence that as well. But I really don't think she would have been president.
One thing I just remembered that, because I had discussions with my friends after too, is the polls. I think the falsification of polls by media really, most Democrats and most of my friends, even though they voted, a lot of them thought she was going to win. And this assumption, people didn't come out in droves for her like they did for Trump. Mm-hmm. The polls were saying she was going to win, and so all of his supporters came out from the woodwork to support him, and that's why.
Well, yeah, I think that the Democratic Party has unfortunately neglected a lot of the people that he won over, those working class people. And I don't necessarily think it's her fault. Yes, she could have done more to reach out to them, but that has been an issue within the Democratic Party for a long time, that the whole party has kind of neglected those people.
Yeah. Well, the irony is he's rolling back protections for his voters, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's for another time, guys.
And now turning to campus news, the Environmental Engineering EGCE 441 course recently conducted water quality tests at various surface water reservoir collection sites on campus. Various tests were performed to determine the water quality index of our on-campus surface water runoff, enhancing the course curriculum on water chemistry and treatment. During this extracurricular lab, students performed tests of their own group's water samples that included dissolved oxygen tests, pH, temperature, nitrates, phosphates, turbidity, color, and conductivity. The first well near Titan Stadium tested low in dissolved oxygen and high in turbidity with a temperature of 18.5 degrees centigrade. The second and final well was at Clay's Performing Arts Center. It was high in dissolved oxygen, low in turbidity, and low in nitrates and phosphates. These hands-on, high-impact practices serve as real-world examples of engineering in the field as a civil and environmental engineer. Thanks, Dr. Sudarshan Kurwadkar, for everything you do. Keep up the great work.
13,000 people took to the CSUF intramural field Saturday for the 15th annual Donate Live 5K 1K Run Walk and Family Festival to support organ and tissue donations. Most of the attendees were families who formed teams. They wore shirts and held signs with pictures and the names of loved ones who were organ donors.
For the past 26 years, CSUF has hosted the Special Olympic Games on campus, sponsored by Goodwill of OC. The games are dedicated to fostering social development and activity for developmentally disabled children through non-competitive sporting games and interactions with other challenged children. Reporter Alicia Wabb has the story.
Last week, CSUF hosted the special games presented by Goodwill of OC and the Fally Family Foundation. The games were put together to foster social development and activity for developmentally disabled children through non-competitive games.
Every year since 1986, for the past 26 years, CSUF campus has been holding the Fally Special Games event on their school grounds.
Although the games have been around for 26 years, for Eric Quaylard, this is just his second year at the event.
Very social. Yeah, he's good though, smart, high functioning, high motor skills, good student.
Quaylard is currently in 5th grade at Kellogg Elementary in the Pomona School District and was diagnosed autistic in kindergarten. He loves playing soccer and aspires to be a police officer in the future.
Good stuff! That's the last thing you can do.
All day at the event, Quaylard loved meeting students from other schools and experiencing all of the stops the event had to offer.
The kids have a lot of fun. They really enjoy getting to do all the different activities. They love working with the service dogs. So I know last year they took them through the obstacle courses, and this year it was more like they were petting them.
This is Alicia Watt reporting for CSUF, and here's Eric Quaylard to sign us off.
Have a good day, so a good time, a good day, so goodbye.
In a move to roll back former First Lady Michelle Obama's Healthy Lunch Initiative, the Trump administration unveiled a rule on Monday to eliminate some of the nutritional standards currently set in place. Agriculture Secretary Suni Perdue said that schools will no longer have to try so hard to cut the salt in students' meals or implement whole grains and non-fat milk into the students' meals. The announcement is the first major move for Purdue in deregulation, and complies with pleas from school nutrition directors who denounced many of the standards under the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act signed into law by President Obama in 2010. In particular, they argued for changes to the Act's whole grain and sodium requirements, saying it was hard to find foods that kids would eat under those standards. But in reality, nutrition is more important than the flavorings. The act, which was part of the former First Lady's broader Let's Move campaign, targeted federally subsidized school meals and had increased requirements for serving sizes and nutrition standards. Schools were required to offer only fat-free or low-fat milk, limit calories based on student ages, and cut down on saturated fat, trans fats, and sodium, among other things. Margot Wuta of the Center for Science and the Public Interest said in a statement, quote, "It's discouraging that just days into his tenure, one of the first things that Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue will do is to roll back progress on the quality of the meals served to America's children. End quote.
Well, gosh, this is all the time we have for today's episode. This is our last episode. Nick here is graduating, as well as Jeff. They're leaving us, guys. But I'll stick around. I'll stick around. But honestly, guys, you know, a little bit of word. Gosh, you know it. I'm genuinely, you know, very happy to have had you, you know, throughout the semester. You are smart. You're kind, you're humble, and I know you're a pro, dude, and I know you're going to make it out there. And I just, you know, ask God that he gives you all the blessings that he can out there.
Thank you.
And Jeff, you're absolutely, before I let you talk, Jeff, you're absolutely the best, honestly. I mean, I got to thank you for everything. I got to thank you, you know, for putting it on this show and for putting me here. I mean, you've absolutely helped me so much. You're the best. Thank you.
I mean, I would just like to echo that. I mean, Jeff does everything around here, and neither of us would be here without Jeff, so we have to thank him so much. Everybody at Titan TV, my time on the report has been nothing short of amazing, and I truly believe that people are placed in your life for a reason, and both of you have been placed in my life for one, and Abby has been the most amazing co-host and made me a better anchor, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And one last time, I'm Nicholas Garcia.
And I'm Abby Fernandez.
And I'm Jeffrey Witten. Stay fresh, Fullerton.